The scariest story of all is when everybody lost their hair.
No. The scariest story of all is when frogs attack.
No, guys. The scariest story is when an airplane crashes on your head.
No, guys. I've got a scarier story.
What was that?
What is it?
The one about Moreland's genitalia.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the freest rotation. We spin in a circle. I'm Bobby. I'm joined by my wonderful compatriots, Beckles,
Oh, Jesus. You scared me.
and Lord High Commander, Angela.
Yes, there's a frog right behind you.
Today.
Oh, it's just Moreland's penis. You're fine.
Ooh, looks like a python.
Oh, God. Okay.
So, Becky, it
It has been 0 days since Moreland's genitalia has been mentioned.
God bless. But today, we are discussing the newest spicy movie.
Spoopy.
It's Spoopy. Scary stories to tell in the dark. We all read these when we were kids, or at least looked at the spooky pictures.
Wait, I didn't do it. Scuffed movie reviews.
Yeah.
We all read these books when we were children, at least looked at the spooky pictures. I have nightmares of these still.
Well, this is like one of the like pivotal books in a lot of people's childhood because this was like sold at book fairs all over the country. I mean, and it was scary. That's the thing about it. It wasn't like it was, something made for kids. It wasn't necessarily made for kids. It was made to be scary.
Yes, it was not censored. And this was banned in a lot of schools.
Oh, I was just thinking how maybe after the movie review we can discuss what is age appropriate for horror. Since it is something that you either like or don't like, what would be age appropriate?
It kind of goes with our last topic. Little fucking points I wrote down. I do that sometimes.
Oh, sweet.
Kind of. Yeah,
oh,
kind of.
I see, yeah.
Kind of. I came up with these when I was drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes at 7 a.m. That's what I do. But yeah, we're going to discuss it. And I'm going to tell you if we like it or not. And yeah. But anyway, going to dive right into the synopsis. Synopsis. The shadow of the Bellows family has loomed large in a small town of Mill Valley for generations.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's in a mansion that young Sarah Bellows turns her tortured life and horrible secrets into a series of scary stories. These terrifying tales soon have a way of becoming all too real for a group of unsuspecting teens who stumble upon Sarah's spooky home.
And it's also important to mention the scariest part of this was the election of Richard Nixon. Because it takes place in the 60s.
Oh yeah. This movie's that's one thing I want to discuss. This movie takes place in 1968, and I like that. That's not a very common horror setting, at least in today's thing. But I enjoyed it a lot.
Unless you're talking about hippies, there's lots of hippie stuff. But this is like small town Richard Nixon, draft for Vietnam.
I was glad there wasn't any hippies in this because that is a common trope in 60s movies. There's always hippies, and there wasn't. Exactly. I was like, yay, this is kind of cool. But I really enjoyed the backdrop of the late 60s and the Nixon election because it kind of parallels with the story because Nixon's a lying bastard.
That is true.
And this movie kind of incorporates the whole, as Angie told me earlier, was like, yeah, you tell a false story, it's gonna spread faster than the truth will, unfortunately.
Yeah. Before
we dive into the deep part of the plot, give us a spoiler-free rating.
I'm trying to think. I would give it about a 7 out of 10. It's not the scariest movie I've ever seen, but it definitely kind of set the mood. What I liked about it is that it wasn't reliant on just the jump scare genre of movies. It was like a classic horror setting in a time in which you don't have cell phones, you don't have any of that to like text your friends to get out of bad shit. So it kind of gave it like this, I don't know, the old classic horror film movie to me.
What about you, Angela?
I agree with what Becky says. Are we giving it an out of 10 rating?
Yeah.
What did you out of 10?
I said 7 out of 10.
Okay, I would do like a 6.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty good. you don't realize how much you rely on cell phones till like certain things happen in the movie and like, oh, they can't just call somebody to get them out of there.
Yeah, I give it about the same rating, probably like a 7. There, it was slow in a couple parts.
Yeah.
But no, overall, you know what? Up to seeing this movie, I had not watched any trailers or any of it, and I was like, how are they gonna make all these things into one big plot? And I was like, oh, it's actually turn up better than I thought it would. So yeah, 7
and it's actually interesting that the way this movie was done is very similar to how they did the Goosebumps movie too. But Goosebumps was more like kid-friendly, fun horror.
I fucking love the Goosebumps movie. Jack Black killed it as R.L. Stein. I fucking love that movie. Good.
And speaking of R.L. Stein, they're making Fear Street into a movie, which Fear Street was like my favorite series of books when I was a kid.
I remember when they did The Nightmare Room.
Yeah.
On Kids WB. I remember that series. Shia LaBeouf was in that shit. Oh, yeah. Fear Street and shit. So that's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah, and The Nightmare Room.
Yeah, The Nightmare Room. That shit was like, you go back and watch it now. Now it's fucking schlocky. But like back then I was a kid, that shit was spoopy.
Well, even like the Goosebumps series was kind of
God.
Spoopy.
The fucking Haunted Mask episode, though, is still pretty good. It's not great, but like.
The Werewolf of Fever Swamp scared the shit out of me. My nephew would watch it to go to sleep every night. He'd be like, Annie, come watch this with me.
Your nephew sounded like an old man?
No, he sounded like a little kid.
Oh, okay.
He's like 4 watching that, and he falls asleep like a baby. And I'm sitting there like, holy shit balls, there's a werewolf under his bed.
Which, I honestly, like, this movie kind of gave me the feel of another TV show that in Nickelodeon was Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes.
That's how it kind of reminded me of as well. So it was kind of a nice nostalgic throwback to those kind of movies and TV shows of the 90s that were super popular.
Yeah, I mean, it was good, though. Who was your favorite actor/actress, Angie?
Oh, I liked the girl who played Stella.
Oh, Zoe Colletti?
Mm-hmm. Although the girl who played Ruth was really good, too. I liked her in other stuff. Not that I know her name.
Natalie Ganshorn.
That's a cool-ass name. Ganshorn? Yeah. That's like a fucking anime character.
Oh, she's definitely a Viking.
Hell yeah.
Can I just talk about, though, like, talking about Ruth and that she was actually pretty good in it? The kid who played Tommy, Austin Abrams, I did not picture him as a jock, like, sort of guy who, that kind of like stereotypical jock getting drafted and stuff like that. He just looked like a skeezy little kid to me.
True. Speaking of someone that looks like little kids, she was good. She's a good actress, but the Zoe fucking, when she was starting the whole romance with Ramon, I was like, looks at least fucking 10 years older than you, girl.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable. I have to see how old she is when we get done, so I can, like, if she's like over 18, I'm like, oh, it's okay to look at you like that. But if not, I'm like, hard.
She did look like a little girl versus like.
I think it was just the makeup.
Yeah,
probably.
They wanted that innocent, like. Well, at the very beginning of the movie, they talk about it. This is like the age of innocence and blah 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 blah, and it's our last time.
Mm-hmm. But my favorite was Michael Garza as Ramon. I thought he was really good. I liked the whole greaser type of deal he was going for with the switchblade and such.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him in more of a perspective of being like a Hispanic person versus just the stereotypical like white guy walking around doing stuff. Like it kind of puts it in the setting about like the discrimination that was happening in that time.
Oh yeah, like you could like that when the first 5 fucking minutes you had the police chief come up to Ramon and be like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like,
better keep on passing through.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's even that kind of 60s movie. Just to get you. And then you had fucking was it not Tommy called him a wetback and shit. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing. Though my least favorite character is probably Stella's dad, because it felt like he really didn't do anything in the movie.
No,
he kind of was just there. I mean, at the end he's driving him and shit, but like he just kind of useless.
I think it's just making the point of why her mom left. Like it just really cements. Oh, this is why her mom left.
Hey, that sucks. Was he a mechanic or something?
I guess.
Because I saw the overalls, like, whatever.
Yeah, but then he had a cabinet, but I guess it could have been a toolbox in the back.
That was one thing I don't think they really explored very well, is that they were talking about how the thing with movies that great movies do is that they don't explain plot points. Like somebody's not there just explaining the plot point. It's more so that it has a feel and you learn about it through like behaviors and just inferences about it. But this one was like, you talk about her mother leaving and she's super still upset about it and all of this stuff, and it kind of just felt like superficial. Like, hey, we need to give her a backstory. Yeah, here's her backstory.
Yeah, and she's at least 17, 16?
She should be like 16 or 17.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 12 years. I get your mom left, but it's been over a decade.
And it's like talking about how she feels like she's the one that made her leave. It's like, you weren't you were a little kid.
You were fucking 4.
Yeah, how are you starting that sort of, like, belief that you're the reason her mother left? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It was a little unbelievable that she was bullied because her mom left.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess unless you're talking about, like, oh, you got the abandoned parent, like, sort of feel to it. But the fact that people were talking about her as the reason why her mom left, that doesn't make any sense. Unless she turned out to be, like, satanic or a demon or something that she had to leave for.
Yes. But anyway. Moving on. Speaking of moving on. Favorite scene?
I liked the pale lady scene.
Fuck that lady.
The reason
so scary.
It was because I felt trapped in it. Like, I felt claustrophobic. I didn't really put my shirt over my face like I normally do in scary movies, except in this one scene, because she just kept, like, you just got the general feeling of her just coming at you. It's the same sense of, like, It Follows.
Yes.
Where you can't escape it. It can go as slow or as fast as it wants, and you still can't escape it. And that's how it felt in that scene.
Yeah, but at least with It Follows, you got to see some titties.
Well, you got to see the absence of titties in this one.
That was so uncomfortable. Let's see. My favorite scene. Probably like the whole. It's not even a scary scene. So them like shitting on each other's costumes. I thought that was funny. I enjoyed that little banter.
Kind of throwback
like,
of the costumes.
You're a clown. No, I'm. What was it?
A Puro.
A Puro. And spiders have more than 4 legs, idiot.
I like that he was Spider-Man. But not Spider-Man.
Yeah. Man Spider.
Yep. Angela?
I think I really liked the cornfield scene.
Oh, yeah. That's a real throwback nostalgic scene, too. Kind of like the Town That Dreaded Sundown kind of feel to it.
And Jeepers Creepers 2. The opening scene where fucking Aaron Carter gets mauled.
Because wind through corn stalks just sounds eerie. And you don't know if something walking. Is it the wind?
Yeah.
And you know what? When we go to, like, haunted houses and they have, like, the corn maze / haunted house in the corn, that, to me, feels a little, like, scarier than any sort of, like, haunted house feeling.
Yeah. Wait, in the book, in the short story, Harold, like, peels people's skin off and lays in the sun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they had to change that. That's what I thought.
The stories were kind of changed to fit, like, this narrative. It wasn't like,
And I get it. I mean, that you obviously can't show in a PG-13 movie.
Right.
You can't. So I thought so.
Still fairly gory.
And it was dark.
And Harold, I mean, the overall sense was Harold turned people into scarecrows.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I also like this scene in the house where she's in the past as Sarah and he's, in present time, and they can hear and feel each other, and they're in the exact same place at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, the storylines are similar.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
He finds the glasses and everything. And puts
we're talking about
face.
Ramon.
Yeah.
I'm just, because I want, just to help our listeners who haven't seen it yet. Why are you listening to this if you haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, they should have they already know. They've gotten to this point. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Get the fuck over it. Bitch me later. But do you guys feel like the movie captured the overall tone of the short stories?
Not for me. I don't know. Angie, did you ever end up reading the short stories? Okay. So, from your perspective then, let's start with you because you never read the short stories. What did you think of the movie without the context of the short stories?
I thought it was good. I liked it. Scary.
You can borrow them from me. Literally bought them for me for Christmas.
I bought her set too.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I just don't know where mine are.
Under your bed, probably.
Oh, God.
With the werewolf.
No, well, they're staying there. That's where they live now.
With the Wendigo.
Yeah. I don't know if it did, which is fine, because I feel like trying to adapt those sort of stories onto the screen is difficult. Because, and it depends what you're going for. Like, if you're going for, like, the younger generation, like the millennials. Not millennials, Gen Z. Because we're millennials, technically. But, if you're going for them, then you can't really make it too dark. But if you're going for, like, the older crowd, then you can totally make it rated R.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I know they had to change it up. I felt it's hard to, kind of. They did an all right job of capturing the tone. Overall, as a movie, it's good, but, like, capturing the tone, because the tone of the source is way fucking darker. Like, I don't think there's a happy ending in any of those stories.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one.
No, there's not. There's not supposed to be. Those are supposed to be, like, the author of the book, Schwartz, purposely set the tone for them to be urban legends. Like, it was supposed to be a set of stories so kids understood, like, the actual horror in novels versus just the happy-go-lucky stories that you get when you're a kid. But I think they did a good job in the movie setting it as a classic tone of a horror movie using the stories. The only thing is, if you read the books are way scarier than the way the stories were. I mean, the stories were portrayed scary on screen, but reading the stories it's so much different, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think the movie, too, wanted to present a message, which is interesting. The main character's name is Stella Nichols because I want to say it was back in the 70s, maybe 80s. Stella Nichols was known for poisoning Excedrin tablets. She got and then you think about Sarah's backstory. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Wait, was that the whole shit of them that shit in Chicago where they had the poison Tylenol pills or whatever? Was that? Or was
she poisoned Excedrin and she killed her. She killed her husband and a woman named something Snow. I can't remember the lady's first name.
Oh, see, I'm thinking of that stuff that happened. It was like in the 80s.
Yeah,
there was someone
where
that
Tylenol was being poisoned.
Yeah,
they never caught who did that.
Yeah.
But she put cyanide in Excedrin pills and killed people. So when you think about Sarah's storyline and how they were poisoning the water and stuff, I was like, this is pretty cool.
And that's what I really liked about this movie was that whole conspiracy bit because I came out of left field with it, but it made sense and I really enjoyed it because that was it's a thing now.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah.
But,
well, and it kind of was like what you cover up, like the rich covering up the story to like defect what was happening.
Yeah, like
what's
his face just died.
Yeah.
The
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, he just.
Well, and think of Flint River, Michigan. This is kind of the same thing.
Oh yeah, the Flint.
How it took such current events and it put it back in the 60s, where you can be like, that's interesting.
Well, and that's kind of how it feels in this. A lot of these old horror nostalgic movies now. They don't really focus on things that you can relate to in the modern time. I mean, you can now, but it was like talking about racial discrimination.
Shady politics.
And the thing that I liked about it, even though
that's current. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, that's what we're saying.
What I'm saying. Yeah. And on top of it, like, think about it. They could have used a black guy. It was 1968. They did it. They used a Mexican or a Hispanic guy,
right?
Which is a big issue right now because of the anti-immigration stance a lot of people are taking. So it was nice to see that they kind of like showed, even in that time, that was 50 years ago, that was still an issue that is now even an issue today.
Yeah, and then the message that once you tell a story, whether it's true or not, it's out there. And people choose to usually believe the lie.
Fake news.
And even if you tell the truth, it doesn't matter. People are just, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I guess, the plot, since the books are largely a collection of short stories, do you think the film should have gone the anthology route, or did you liked the actual combination of stories into a concrete plot?
I like the way they did it.
Yeah. I don't think you could have captured, unless you did it like a Netflix series, I don't think you could have captured the stories in the book the same way if you hadn't done it like this.
Or like that old Halloween series that Netflix puts on every Halloween. It's like the 3 stories.
Yeah.
I can't think of what it's called.
VHS? Or
are you thinking?
Oh, I do love VHS.
VHS Trick or Treat are great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was thinking Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat, that's it. Yeah,
Trick or Treat's great.
Trick or Treat's fantastic. But I like the way this story had like everything in the one and how the stories wrote themselves.
Yeah, it had a fluidity to it.
Yeah.
And I think it helped tell the story in the metaphorical sense that these stories were being created and these were the things that were happening to these people. What happened?
No, keep going. I have something fucked up I'm going to say in a second.
Okay. But it's like the point of it being like this was what was killing people off was these stories. And that was her urban legend backstory, is that she would tell you a story and then you would die.
Also, don't bully people, kids. They'll come and fucking kill you, whether it's through scary stories or with a fucking gat.
No, it's true. Like, look at the people who, like Columbine shooters, bullied relentlessly. And then they decided, you know what? We're going to get our own back. And I like the message that she told Sarah at the end, which is, what they did is on them. You doing this didn't fix that.
Makes you into a monster.
Yeah, it makes you a monster. So I know bullying can drive you to the point of rage, either at yourself, at other people.
And even revenge.
You have to let it go.
Yeah.
Also, don't blame it on video games like our current politicians are.
Yeah.
True that.
Yep.
The only time I ever get violent, the only thing that ever happens is I might mash my keyboard really hard.
I throw stuff.
I know. I've bought you new keyboards.
I still smell children and throw them in a boiling vat of water.
Wow.
That's the violence they're talking
is
about,
that
Bobby.
delicious stew you made?
Toes.
Did it have toes?
It had toes in it.
Hey, right back into it. You know, I did miss that entire storyline with Augie because I had to go to the restroom. No, I had to go get you popcorn.
No, you went to get a coffee and you were going to put butter on my popcorn.
I did put butter on your popcorn.
Wait, you saw it at night. Why the fuck are you drinking a cup of coffee?
My tummy was hurting a little bit and coffee helped settle it.
Oh, see, it just the opposite for me. It makes me go poop.
Yeah.
But it's the good kind. Like, you smoke a cigarette, you have a cup of coffee. It's like, toilet, oh, I'm cleaned out. It's better than prune juice. But yes, one little thing. There is, I don't want to say it's controversial, but some horror fans don't appreciate PG-13 horror movies. I think they're fine.
I think they're fine.
Yeah. But do you feel like this rating hampered it, or do you think it was fine? Or done better with an R rating or not?
I think an R rating would have just made it gorier.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was.
And some more fucks in there.
I think the PG-13 made it scarier because you knew you weren't gonna. You didn't expect the pop-up scenes and stuff, which there weren't pop-up scenes, but I think keeping it PG-13 actually added to the scary for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not relying on the gore.
Yeah.
Or boobs.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, she's underage. There's no boobs really you could see, except maybe Ruth. But how old is she? She's still in high school.
I think she's a senior, so maybe she's 18. Who knows?
Maybe.
We could see Ramon's dick.
Ooh.
Because he's draft age. So,
yeah.
He's draftable.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I think people keep forgetting is that these books were made for kids. It wasn't ever made to be a book that, I mean, you could read it at any age, but the books were still made to be a kid's book.
Yeah, it's just those illustrations that put them over the top, really.
Yeah. So the fact that it's PG-13 kind of still relates back to the fact that it was always supposed to be a kid's story.
Right. And just like we grew up to like horror, we liked horror when we were kids. So these were perfect books, like the books. I read Stephen King when I was in 3rd and 4th grade. Hugely inappropriate.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was either Ramona Quimby or Stephen King. So I think it's great that they started writing horror for kids. You know, it was after my time.
Yeah.
But I think it's fantastic because as someone who loved horror, I didn't have access to clean horror.
Yeah.
It was, scary old stuff.
Yeah.
Like the werewolf in London and just stuff I shouldn't have read.
Now, I remember reading Goosebumps as a kid. Now, there was one that really... The Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns.
Oh, my God.
That one bothered the fuck out of me.
Oh, man.
Bothered the fuck out of me.
Yeah, Trick or Treat had the
Sam.
Jack-o'-lantern. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Stabbing people with his fucking lollipop and shit.
Oh, my Jesus. And the Jack-o'-lanterns, ate the woman when she came out.
And it relies less... And the good thing about these stories is that they rely less on the gore. It is gory in the sense that murder and disfigurement does happen.
Yeah.
But it's in the sense that you're not, opening somebody's spleen up and talking about, the 8 ways that
it's
they've
not
been
like
dissected.
The Green Inferno where it's just gory cannibalism for the sake of
Eli Roth made that, and he did Cabin Fever and Hostel and stuff, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Becky, what did brown people read as kids that was spooky?
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
Oh, see.
I had Scholastic book fairs too, man.
Oh, see, I thought they just told you how America's the worst.
I'm not that kind of brown.
Back in my day, our horror books was the Bible.
That is kind of a horror novel.
It
is. People get turned to salt.
My God.
Oh, yeah, you turn around and you
you're
die.
You're going to burn in a lake of hellfire and brimstone and forever and ever. Okay, that's scary. I don't know if I want to participate in Christianity at this point.
Jesus.
But
literally.
Do we want to discuss what's appropriate in a horror movie? For younger audiences? What?
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, you notice when Tommy was stabbed, it didn't do the blood.
No.
It when he stabbed, it's you saw just a little bit.
Yeah, and it just turned into a scarecrow. I feel like that's way more disturbing than the fucking blood.
Disturbing when he's just vomiting up the straw.
Yeah, and it's coming. Yeah, I was I
don't
turned
think
away.
I blinked the entire time.
I was super uncomfortable during that.
Becky and I were
body horror that bothers the shit out of me.
I think it was I think the perception of the way they took it was a lot scarier than just the old adage of stab, bloody, bloody time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You get old, wrinkly ladies swallowing you up with a hug.
And then the fact, honestly, the red spot was one of the scariest stories I read as a kid, which is the one where Ruth's face explodes with the spiders coming out of it. And what scared me even more is that the story was very close to the actual story. Seeing the leg pop out, trying to pop the zit, and then the leg pops out, and then your face explodes. Oh my God, that to me was scarier than... so nasty.
Yeah, I actually wanted to trick us and just be a huge amount of pus.
Oh yeah,
That'd
and then
funny.
like a huge spider just eats her.
Yeah,
that's really what happened.
That would have been funny.
Now there is.
Do do do. Now back to our
Wow.
scheduled programming with the Crusaders.
But yeah, there was like this movie really didn't. I felt like it didn't need gore to be scary, which is a nice change of pace for a horror film, I will say.
Yeah, I think it was nice not to have to worry about it. There's a lot of movies coming out lately though that it's not so scary, or when I say not so scary, they don't use the regular old horror tropes to try and scare people.
Like Midsommar, y'all see Midsommar?
Not yet.
It was fucked up.
Yeah.
I keep hearing it's fucked up more than scary.
Yeah.
That's kind of what makes it scary, though, probably.
That it's fucked up. And it's all in the daytime. It's none of that. It's no fucking...
No shadows.
Exactly.
But you know what? The Walker, the bow tie Doty Walker.
Yeah.
He had like the classic horror things where he's unstoppable. He pops out of nowhere. He's like hanging on the ceiling waiting for you to
pop up. Yeah.
He was scary.
And he can fucking fall apart and put himself back together again. That's broken.
Yeah. How do you? I mean, I guess the only way you can kill him is to burn him. But even then, it's like, what do you do? Unless you keep your body separated.
Well, he took like a whole clip of bullets to the head. And he's like,
Yep.
I mean, I guess the only way, like, here's how you defeat that is you put him in a bunch of different like iron chests.
Yeah. Keep him
separated. Gotta keep him separated.
Hey.
But other than that, I think that it did a good job of just being, to me, it's like if you were like a middle schooler and you wanted to see a scary movie, this was probably going to be the most appropriate scary movie to see.
Yeah, it's the one you could see without your parents like fucking giving you a look. Like you're talking about Willis and such. But yeah, or you can nuke them.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another option.
Yeah, I mean, Nixon nukes, totally thing.
I don't know if he would. I don't know. He could have just survived that and been like.
True. Or you could have thrown tacos at him.
Oh.
I mean, that is the truest of grenades.
Or you could throw hibachi and see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it's a deadly force.
We heard, and we felt it in the force.
Yeah.
But
I apologize.
But and you wanted to talk a little bit about like the appropriateness of the horror fiction for kids in general, because like you said, you had Stephen King.
And kids today, now you have like Goosebumps and
Fear Street,
Nightmare Room,
Five Nights at Freddy's.
I don't know.
That's not fucking appropriate. I don't know.
That's what kids play.
I know. The games themselves are fine, but like the backstory and stuff, like the bite and stuff, it's some fucked up shit. And like that's a weird thing where like the spin-off media is actually darker than the basis. Game. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I never really got into Five Nights at Freddy's, but there's a lot of kids who love that stuff. But the thing is, like, does that create more of a violent nature in a kid? Is the horror, or is it like, if you're gonna harp it to video games, then why are these other things being created for the purpose of like kids?
You know what? I feel like the movie also pointed out how Stella was such a huge horror fan. It had kind of
warped her.
Yeah. So she was like, took the book and she was like, tell me a scary story, Sarah. And she didn't take it seriously because she was, what's that called where you get kind of immune to something?
Desensitized?
Yeah, she was desensitized to it. So maybe we have desensitized ourselves to a lot of stuff.
Stella, you dumb bitch. You fucking caused a bunch of people to die.
Why would you say that out loud? Because that's when we know as the viewer that Sarah was like, okay, bitch, I'm going to tell you a motherfucking story.
I'll tell you a scary story.
I was like, Stella, you dumb, crazy girl.
And it is sad because, like, if you look at it, Sarah herself was kind of a sympathetic character. It wasn't, she was created in the sadness or in this darkness. And I think the point of the story was, it was a good point that you can't just, you can't become the thing that you hate. And that was a big problem with it. And, I felt bad for her. I mean, if you were locked up in, like, this dark room all the time because of the way you looked and the way your family was.
Right, because she was albino.
Yeah, she was blind. They used very scientific words for this, but that was not the, we don't know those scientific words off the top of our head. I heard dystopianism in one of those words, but I don't think that's what they actually said.
I can't spell.
Well, there you go. But, I think it's a little different now because, really, like, Stephen King, when he first started writing, that was about the time that you would have been a little younger. So he was really sort of the first, like, horror, like, big modern horror fictionist.
Yeah, his first book I read was Cujo.
Oh, that's a great one. And now you got a big old doggo. It's great.
And it's interesting because when I read, I almost said Hugo. When I read Cujo, I almost said Jugo. When I read Cujo, I didn't understand that there's a scene in the book where, the wife is cheating on her husband and her boyfriend comes in and he jerks off and jizzes on the bed as like a fuck you to her and her husband. I didn't know what that was. So I showed Michelle, who's my older sister, on the bus, and I was like, Michelle, and she's like, oh my God. So she showed it to our mom, and then
fuck.
I went to school, and then all the Stephen King books were pulled off the show. But
I'll do it.
But it's like, I was lucky because I was like, I was a 90s kid, so this was like, at this point in time, they have R.L. Stine, which he was the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. You get Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon. You get all of these, and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was published about this time. So I didn't have I had the luxury of picking stories that were more geared toward kids without having to go into like I didn't even read a Stephen King novel until I was in high school. Mm-hmm. For my first one, I think I read Carrie was the first one I ever read. But
Periods are scary.
Yeah, but it's like
and Harry.
That's true. But it was like I got the luxury of being able to pick books that were a little bit more age appropriate. Although a lot of schools attempted to ban Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, because Satanism, and just the fact that it was a scary book.
Well, I found in the nonfiction section there was a horror section, and one of the books was called True Ghost Stories. I scared the fuck out of myself. I checked that book out probably 20 times. I'm not even kidding, and scared the shit out of myself every time.
But the thing is, like, are you going to ban, kind of going with the ban books theory and all of that, are you really going to ban books like these books when you know kids are going to find them, especially at this day and age? You can't really ban a book at this point in time, and people are still going to be able to find it on the internet. Hell, you can go on Kindle and just buy it at this point. But, like, if you're looking into horror, I mean, are you going to leave something like Stephen King up for a kid to read, or are you going to leave it to something like this? Because if you're interested in that, you're going to find a way to read it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
exactly.
I didn't, like, if you ban the book, I would just have more of a piqued interest in it anyways.
It's the Streisand effect.
Yes. It's not the Mandela effect, but the Streisand effect.
Mm-hmm. So, it's a whole thing. Tell someone not to look at something, don't look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Like Beyonce, don't look at this picture.
And if you're a fan of something, you're going to be a fan. Kids who don't want to read or watch horror aren't going to.
Exactly. They'll watch
Real Housewives. I don't know.
Sure. I was going to say Gossip Girl, but that works too.
Oh, yeah. Gossip Girl's good.
I have not watched Gossip Girl.
Of course, I think those teen shows and some of the kids shows are way worse for them to watch. Like the Disney shows. Like, where are your parents? There's no parent ever.
Yeah, and they kind of
especially not two parents.
Well, and they overly sexualize kids.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking about like more morbid disfigurement in a book where somebody turns into a scarecrow, which is clearly fiction, versus like
the
Hannah
Montana, life of Zach and Cody.
Yeah,
and it's like your mom works all the time. You pretty much run the show. Like it's so, I don't know. Or the Witches of Waverly or whatever it was called.
Witches of Waverly Place, yeah.
Yeah, like just...
shitty parenting.
Yeah. I think that's why I like the Netflix show One Day at a Time, because...
Did that just get canceled?
Yeah, but they picked it back up for another season.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think it's supposed to be like a final season.
Not Netflix, but somebody else did.
It's supposed to be a final season or something like that.
Hulu or somebody, I'm sure.
It was so good. And that, to me, was just a really... really good.
It was more wholesome, and it was more realistic.
Wholesome, but it dealt with issues that people don't like to see, like pronouns. The daughter's gay, and at her quinceanera, the dad is like, I'm not gonna have a gay daughter, and he leaves. So they're dealing with that.
That's depressing.
It is, and they're also Latina in today's society, so they talk about that a lot. I did learn a lot of Spanish words from that show.
You were like Dora the Explorer for adults.
Yeah. Yes.
Donde patito.
Speaking of Dora the Explorer, when I went to when I was leaving the theater, it was playing right next door.
It was, yeah.
I
don't want to see it, to be honest.
You can. Fuck that. The movie's expensive.
But even think about like Dora's thing. Where are her parents?
They're dead.
She's out in the wilderness.
No, we see them. I think.
Yeah, now when they get kidnapped in Dora.
I mean like the cartoon. She's out there with a fox and a monkey. What?
And Diego, her older brother or cousin.
Yeah, like what is happening here? Where are your parents? Why are you in the woods by yourself?
They're dead.
I think that's way worse than saying, you know what? You probably And here's the thought: not play with a Ouija board on a full moon and dabble with witchcraft.
And that's the thing, though, is like, if you think about it, if you're going to differentiate between these stories, think about it. The scary stories, generally, if you're talking about even urban legends or creepypastas, they're supposed to be stories that deter you from a certain behavior or teach you a moral story. So, like, I'm trying to think of a good example, like the Highway Killer, the one where if he's scratching across your car, you don't get out of the car.
Oh, I mean the Hook Man?
Yeah, the Hook Man. Talking about how, like, you shouldn't be out in Lover's Lane doing, like, naughty biscuit things because you could get murdered. You know what I mean?
Naughty biscuit.
Yeah. But, see, there's, like, a morality to it versus, like, if you just let a kid watch a regular Disney show, yeah, there's some morality, moral storylines to it. But a lot of it is just, like, learning how not to listen to your parents.
So, Becky.
What's up?
Where can they find us?
You can find us on Facebook at The FreeRotation Podcast.
Do we have Instagram?
Shut the fuck up. Anyways, you can find us on Twitter at TheFreeRotation. We're also on Instagram at TheFreeRotation Podcast.
Do we have a website?
On Twitch and YouTube at TheFreeRotation. Yes, we do. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, all of those places.
What's BB Geeks?
Oh my God. This is the horror movie I live in regularly, once a week at least. You can find us on Weeby Geeks. That's a great podcasting network. You can check out all the other great podcasts over there at WeebyGeeksPC.com. We also have our website at TheFreeRotation.com. And is there anything else I forgot?
Meow.
Not SoundCloud.
Meow.
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 Meow. Meow.
What's the song we're trying to do?
Meow. Meow. Meow.
Meow, meow,
Meow. 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 Meow.
Meow.
Meow. Meow. Meow.
meow, 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 meow.
Meow, meow, meow.
I'm gonna kill you all.
Oh, even Chucky got down.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.